everybody. So my name is Marie Davis. I am an anthroposophic psychotherapist and a new eurythmist in the United States. So actually Theodore and I met last spring when I was still living in England, because I did my trainings over there. And we found out that we had an interest in the Zodiac together. Because of my eurythmy training, I had gone back and taken a second look at William Bento's thesis about the different planes of space related to different mental diagnoses. And this course is not about mental diagnoses, and that's very, very important for me. But this was where Theodore and I made a connection, and the beginnings of this course began. And I think for me, what's happened in the development of this course and really working with, again, an approach to the Zodiac, both looking at social and antisocial forces, what are the strengths and imbalances that the different zodiacal beings give to us, or that we can fall into ourselves. And then also, how does this play into the times that we're living in these very turbulent times? And so often on a path of self-development, we can find that we have difficult people that show up in our lives. And so, again, how do we start to work with that? Because of course we know that we all have a part, we all carry our own difficulties. And so how do we start to work with social dynamics and social relationships in the social sphere in a way that's healthy and productive for everybody? Because I think, another thing that really lives with me with what Steiner says is we're living in a time of half-truths. And so how do we really come to a place of discerning the truth? And so I think, again, also in developing this course, the course is not meant to give any answers, diagnoses. We're not looking to characterize anyone. I think for me, this is really a path of self-development, that these are different. We're offering a set of tools and a set of ways of inquiring that can help us navigate these really challenging times. And so one other thing that I'll just say, and I think this is, for me, kind of embodies the spirit of the course, is I think that there's a way that one of the gifts that anthroposophy brings us, especially because we live in such a materialistic age, that very profound things we take for granted. So, for example, right, when we look at these different planes of space, right, when we stand upright, right, we have these three different planes of space that we inhabit. And yet we never think about this. We take it for granted. And actually, Steiner says it's healthy. We should forget this. But what happens, and it's interesting because even with traditional psychotherapy, I'm trained in a body-centered method. We look at different postures or gestures that people would have, where people would they would lose their uprightness. So you could see they're carrying this heaviness, or you can see they're kind of way too high. So how can the insights of anthroposophy help us understand this? But also in terms of self-knowledge, what happens when I have these orientations, and how do I find my balance again? And in working with Theodore with the course, he had this wonderful picture of, the Zodiac, right, is embracing us. And that when we can really access the fullness of the Zodiac as a whole, we can help to find this balance. And some of it is where am I off balance? Am I leaning too far into the front space? Am I too far back? Do I find myself up? And what does this mean? How does it relate to different zodiacal gestures and different zodiac signs? So that's just a very beginning taste of sort of the questions and directions we'll go. We'll be exploring, like I just said, the different planes of space. And then we'll also be working with the different zodiacal gestures. So looking at, so again, we've got a little bit in the introduction. So we have the frontal plane, right? So that divides the front and the back. And so this is, you could say, the plane of the will, because when we want to move into the world, we come this way, right? We start to move forward. And when we pull away from the world, we might pull back. So we'll be looking at, in the Zodiac, all of the cardinal signs are connected to the frontal plane because cardinal is connected to the will. And so we'll be exploring what happens when maybe with the different zodiacal signs, they have a tendency to kind of have maybe more of a forward orientation or more of a backwards orientation, or maybe they get stuck in the middle. They're kind of afraid to go to both. Or it could also be that I'm not actually getting information from a particular plane because I'm cut off from that. And so how does all of that affect us? How does it affect our perception? How does it affect our perception of ourselves, our ability to gather sensory information? So then we have the horizontal plane, right? And so we know from Steiner, right, this is the encircling round. So this is the realm of the feelings. And we can even see that the horizontal is going to be between top and bottom. And then the last one is the sagittal plane, which divides then our left and our right. So the horizontal plane, which is a little paradoxical, but that's what's so wonderful about mystery wisdom. This is actually the feeling realm, and it's connected to the fixed signs. Whereas the sagittal is connected to the realm of thinking, which is very interesting because, right, so we have sympathy and antipathy.
And what Marie just said is that these planes, and now how do this, each zodiac signs is in another plane and has another attitude in this plane. Yeah, in this deviation, we will look at, and you take this with you during the week. How do you discover it in yourself? How do you discover it in others? And what can be done that it by somehow finds its
balance.
Balance. Thanks, Marie.